y'all cool cats and kittens. It's the TipTech Podcast back at you again with a brand new episode. I'm just kidding. What's up, everybody? It's the TipTech Podcast back at you again with another new episode. As always, I'm Eduardo, and with me, of course, as always, nonetheless, the one and only Brett motherfucking Otto. What's up, brother?
A to the M-I, S to the wizard.
What song is that?
Well, that was, my rap name, Amicy, which is my middle name, but it was taken
Alias?
from the H to the Izzo, V to the Izza.
Oh, that was like your own remix.
Yeah, that was the Amicy remix.
Oh, man. Well, here we are, day after Halloween. We're into November already. You know, let's start off by saying this, right? So for everybody listening out there, I want to say, hopefully, from us, from the TipTech Podcast, hopefully everybody had a safe Halloween. I know it's a different time now since we're going through this motion of just the quarantine, being safe out there and, wearing our masks and all.
I didn't see anybody quarantining.
Well, yeah, I mean, I figured too. Actually, yeah, I didn't really see too much of it either. It was kind of the normal, still like the same thing, even though we're going through this phase, like I was saying, right?
Yeah,
so it's still the same.
It was just one big super spreader event over here in the Pacific Northwest.
So if COVID cases increase, you know why.
Well, that's what everybody's afraid of. I mean, here we have the Halloween, super spreader event that they're worried about, and then you have election day, right? Just a few days ahead. Here coming up on Tuesday.
That's
so.
True.
Yeah, I mean, we're screwed.
We're screwed.
We're screwed.
Yeah. But yeah, so before we get into all this, right? I saw on the gram that you on your wifey's gram, you were setting up like all your ornaments, like all your spider web stuff with your daughter. And if we want to just go into it, in the video, you were trying to scare her with an outfit you had on. You want to explain to the people what you were doing? I thought it was hella funny, and you were trying to get a reaction, but you didn't get.
It's a little bit of a tradition in our family where, it started with my first child, when she was 3. We went camping and, we sort of primed her the whole time. We said, hey, just letting you know, there's gorillas that are out here. They're kind of running around. And this is in where's that city along the ocean?
Ocean Shores?
Ocean Shores. Yeah,
Okay.
We were camping Ocean Shores along the beach. And we just told her, like, hey, just let you know, there's some gorillas out here running around and they just like to eat kids. So, yeah. I mean, I'll keep you safe. You're with me. No big. So she felt pretty safe. Well, so she was in the tent, and this was my mom went with us. So it was just my mom, Cassidy, and me.
Yeah.
So while my mom was in the tent reading Curious George, to Cassidy, I was over there and I had my video cam, and I was taping the whole thing. So basically, I'm getting in the gorilla costume, and I got this gorilla costume when Cassidy was a year old. When the first time we took her out trick or treating, not trick or treating, but just Halloween. First time she was in a costume.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, so I'm in this costume, and then I get over to the tent, and I had the light shine behind me to where you could see the silhouette of a gorilla. So if you were inside the tent, you would see the silhouette of the gorilla.
Yeah, like the shadow.
And so I had the video camera, and I just got the just pure fear in her eyes, right? So that was always, so that instantly became the tradition. So then with Isabella, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this to her. But I had a few things going through my head. For one, I'm like, she's in a tub.
Yeah,
I want her to be so scared that it becomes a medical emergency. So I didn't come at it too. I should have just planned it a little bit better. Yeah. But I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna jump in and get the gorilla suit. So I came in. And Mom chased me with the camera, and I came in, and she's just looking at me like, okay, what's this about?
Yeah.
I mean, she was like not scared at all. Didn't even, she was just like looking at it like, that's a weird thing.
Is that the best you can do?
Yeah.
Father?
What is this? And it wasn't like she knew it was me. It was just, she saw this thing and she just wasn't afraid. And I'm like, she's fearless.
Yeah.
She's fearless.
She got that
So
from you, man. Fearless. Fuck the world, right?
man, I was shocked. I was shocked. There was just no fear whatsoever because I was ready to take off the, the mask and let her
Yeah.
know, hey, it's okay. But nope, didn't even come. Didn't even happen. It was
That is
insane.
funny. Yeah, I saw that video, and I definitely wanted to bring it up here on the pod and talk about that. We would expect certain reactions from our kids, but it's like the opposite, and you're like, okay, all
Yeah,
right.
it's amazing. Well, I'm glad that
What do
mom
I
got
do with my
her.
hands?
I'm glad that mom got her reaction,
Yeah.
because I mean, you couldn't have had the two be more polar opposite, where Cassidy was just super afraid and then Isabella was just like, this is weird.
That's funny. That's funny. So what'd you do? Did you guys do anything on Halloween? Because like I said, this year's Halloween was just kind of meh for me, and obviously I had to work. So I kind of just,
Ugh,
put a lot of things into just, not really doing anything. But
it's hard, yeah.
what would you end up doing? Because I saw some pictures too of you, your little girl dressed up, you dressed up as well. Did you do like the normal trick or treating, hand out candy and all that?
Yeah, we kind of went back and forth on how, I mean, we're trying to play it safe with this pandemic,
For
but at the
sure, for
same
sure.
time we're looking at like, I mean, I know cases are rising, so we're trying to be careful. We really are.
Yeah,
Um, but then at the same time, I was like, I'm not going to live in that much fear. I'm not
yeah,
going to, especially when it attacks, people with bad health and elderly. And
yeah.
then, when we get hit with it, I mean, yeah, it sucks. It's you're out, whatever, but it seems like the quicker we can kind of get this herd mentality thing going on,
Hmm.
the better. Um, so what we did, we took Mama took her out trick or treating, and she had like a ladle to where she could get the candy,
Oh,
without actually touching it.
like the little claw things.
That didn't work.
Uh,
She just, she ended up getting the candy. But there were some neighbors that had some pre-packaged candies, so in a little snack bag. So it was really
oh,
cool to see
nice.
how some of the other neighbors,
Are taking
um,
precautions, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
That's
it was
dope.
just like, yeah, and it's so funny because so while they were out, um, they were wearing their mask,
Yeah,
their face mask, and a lot of kids were. But it was funny because you could see like the parents, you could see who didn't care about the COVID and who did.
yeah.
Because the parents wouldn't have their mask neither with their kids, and I stayed home, and what I did is I just set a bowl of candy by the front door, and then so I just had them, I was there, I was standing nearby, um but I just kind of let them kind of help themselves, and it was really cool because I had my mask on, even I was clear at the other end down the hall, um but I was just there to just let them know, hey, no, I'm here, you can help yourself,
Help yourself.
get your candy. And then anyway, and then there were some kids like, oh, sorry, I forgot my mask, and I said, I don't even care, just have your candy, you know. So it was different. I mean, I would say
Yeah.
like there was, I think last year we ran out of candy. This year we had candy left over, just a little bit left over, and this was even letting the kids help themselves. I mean, I wasn't
Yeah.
even telling them to pump the brakes or nothing. I was just like, whatever,
Letting them
you know.
have it, right?
Yeah, if you want to
Get everything.
die with a sugar overdose, that's fine.
You want to just have a mouthful of cavities, go over it, knock yourself out, right?
Yeah, yeah. I know a good dentist.
No,
Yeah.
for real, man.
How about you? Did you get trick or treaters or did you keep the
No, we
light
didn't do
off?
any of that really. Like I said, this year's just been kind of really out of it, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
And honestly, I low key forgot. Like, it really dawned on me till like the day before. I'm like, why are people like? And it dawned on me like, okay, it's Halloween, and especially because it
Yeah.
landed on a Saturday. Usually, it always lands like on a Sunday or like on a
A
Friday.
weird day.
When
Yeah.
yeah, it landed on a Saturday. So I don't know. I'm just weird like that. It just really didn't dawn on me till last minute. So true story. Aside from Halloween, since we're in November, right?
Mm-hmm.
The time changed. So
I forgot
today
all
I
about
forgot.
it.
Dude. Okay, so check this out. I had to go to work today, right?
Yeah.
I woke up feeling pretty fucking good. I'm like, why does it feel different? Like I woke up pretty like my eyes just open,
Refreshed.
and I'm like super refreshed. Batteries are charged at 100%. Normal case, I'm like 90, 85, 80, minimum. But today I was like, oh man, I feel like I'm at 100%. And I'm like driving to work and I'm like, why does it feel so different? And nothing really dawned on me till like I was talking to a few people I was working with. I'm like, the time changed, didn't it? And they're like, yeah, it's like it's November 1st. I'm like, damn, dude, I don't know what it is, but it really, I'm like, oh, I'm glad I made it to work on time. I'm glad my, the phone here just kept in track with that girl's, or else I would have been screwed. So yeah.
Okay. So isn't it time to sort of get rid of that? I mean,
Well, this may be a stupid question, and I'm gonna ask it anyways. And you're like my fucking Google, like my human Google, right?
Yeah. Beer.
So so how did that start about? Like who decided that we're gonna go back an hour, on November 1st
back in the day
or 31st, the night of the 31st or whatever.
So before we had like this shift work,
Okay.
it was when people did all of their work on the farms.
Okay.
And so what they noticed was they were like, hey, during the fall and the winter, it was getting darker quicker. So that was their whole thing, was like, hey, let's just change the time. Now, don't ask me why they couldn't just say, hey, just get up when the sun's up. We'll keep the time, just show up an hour later, starting in November, just come to work an hour later. Instead, they just felt like they needed to change the whole clock. And what's confusing about that is there were like Indian reservations that were saying, we're not doing any of that. We're never going to change our time. So they don't, they never honored that. They never, what do you call that? They just never practiced that. That wasn't their thing. So then that was creating some confusion. Well, anyway, so over the years, basically it was just they finally came up with this standard way of doing things where the country said, okay, if you're in the West Coast, these are the states, or this is the line that you're going to stay in this time zone.
Yeah.
This is this time zone. And so they did that, and then they practiced with that daylight saving times because of that. So
yeah,
it was based on farming, so
wow.
that they could have more days of daylights of farming. But that's the thing is like, so now, I mean, that's not really a thing anymore.
Yeah.
And not to say that people don't farm, but people don't really live like that anymore. And I'm sure that it would be super cool if we could get rid of that. I mean, it's because they do talk about people that not so much in the fall, but in the spring, it actually creates more heart issues with people that are sensitive with their heart, with their cardiovascular. So there's more, they say that there is a spike in heart attacks in the spring when they do that time change, because people just that are sensitive to it, they tend to have heart attacks more.
That's crazy. I never knew that.
Yeah. Thanks, Google.
Yeah, thanks, Google. So I've always wondered about that, because I know before I used to always kind of see these articles on there's some states that kind of want to get rid of daylight savings time.
I'm all for that. I am pro getting rid of daylight saving time. I mean, it just makes no sense, because like we are one of few countries that practice that.
Yeah.
And it's so weird, like especially when I was dating my wife, she was still in the Philippines. They don't practice daylight saving time. So then all of a sudden I'm late for a phone call, and she's like, hey, where are you? I'm like, oh yeah, we have this thing called daylight savings time. So now she has to alter her schedule. So it's kind of hard when you're dating internationally. So
yeah, I bet. I was going to say, man, you have to do like a total adjustment to that.
I mean, yeah, you had to, 2 times a year you had to adjust. Stupid. So stupid.
Yeah. I know. Like I said, I've always wondered about that, to see how did that even started, and like we're still doing that if it doesn't really entail to us now, since like you said, we don't live that certain lifestyle of farming, or I just don't get why we still do it.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is, right?
Yeah. So question, we're going into voting here, election day coming up.
Kanye West 2020.
You're going for Kanye?
Straight up.
Good. So was I. It's not funny,
Yeezy,
as Jennifer Anderson said.
Right, not funny. And then the lovely thing about Kanye, man, he's so subtle with his subliminals. He's like, by the way, Friends wasn't funny too, or
Yeah.
Friends wasn't funny either. I'm like, damn,
She
fucking
deserved
yay.
it. She deserved it. I mean,
Oh man,
you know,
don't you dare talk to our fucking president like that.
that's how democracy works. Like a democracy, there's no criteria that says that somebody has to be, have to be a lawyer or has to have experience in being in government or in politics or in any of it. There's nothing written that says that there's any criteria.
Yeah,
This thing was written, this country was started for the people by the people, and
yeah,
Kanye is one of the people. And he said that he had his dream. Now he won't get it. I mean, we all know that. but
yeah.
but I wanted to talk to you about a couple of interesting cats,
Okay.
Lil Wayne and Ice Cube,
Hmm.
and 50 Cent. Those three. Well, Ice Cube didn't really say he was going for Trump,
Yeah.
but Lil Wayne and 50 Cent did. Now I heard that 50 Cent retracted, took it back, said that he's not going for Trump now.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts with, like, you know it's so weird, like when you hear, like when you hear like the black vote, right? Oh,
Hmm.
you're splitting up the black vote. People don't ever say that about white people. You know what I mean? People don't ever like, oh, you're splitting up the white vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how is that? To me, it just doesn't seem fair. How is that fair that you can claim that somebody, in a particular race is breaking up votes in that race?
Yeah, I don't think they can just limit to one person and think that just because they're supporting a certain individual means that's gonna be the same for everybody else. Is that kind of what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I'm saying, 50 Cent is not held to the same standards as, like, say, Chris Pratt would be.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
somebody were to say, "Oh, Chris Pratt is voting for Trump," or Brett Favre, or whoever's going for Trump, they're not going to say, "Oh, he's splitting up the white vote."
yeah, yeah,
They,
yeah.
but they'll do it to black people all day long, and I'm wondering, why is that?
I'm not sure to be honest, but I'll go on your initial question on what I think about just like 50 endorsing Trump, or he said he was.
Yeah.
I don't think he is anymore. Like you're right, like you were saying. But Little Wayne was talking to Trump and all that, talking about like the prison reform and all that, and that he's like the only person that get it done. So with me, I kind of look at it this way. What is the one thing that's going to benefit him if he does vote for Donald Trump, right? And I kind of look at just the bigger picture, like we vote for people, or we vote for the runner-ups to see what they're going to bring to the table. Obviously, that's going to benefit us, or what we think is going to be beneficial to the people, right? That's kind of how I look at it, and that's kind of I've been
Mhm.
trying to look at it too. So I think again, this is my opinion, for Wayne, makes a lot of money, and I'm sure he's getting taxed quite a bit. And I'm sure that he's looking at those tax break, or those the taxes in comparison to what Biden and Harris are going to be in comparison to what Donald Trump is now.
Mhm.
So I feel like he's probably rolling that way to kind of like, what's going to benefit me as in Wayne, right?
Yeah.
And he's looking at it that way, in that perspective. But then again, we can also sit here, and I have to admit that Donald Trump has done a few things to. He's given some pardons to a few people that first served those petty crimes. So, for example, like that gentleman, I'm not sure if Trump pardoned this guy, but it was that gentleman that stole a pair of Clippers. Remember?
Oh,
So
yeah.
and we'll talk on that too, because I definitely, that was one of the things that I think you said you wanted to bring it up, right?
Mhm.
But I mean, he has done a few things. I mean, you cannot like doubt, you cannot like lie here, or we can't lie here and say here and say that he hasn't done anything, because he has. So that could be used as ammo for Wayne to be like, well, he's doing something so far. If he's doing this, what does it make me think that he could do bigger things if he does serve another 4 years, or whatever the case may be? But
Yeah.
on top of that, his tax breaks aren't as bad as compared to what Biden's going to do, and Kamala Harris is going to do now. So I think there's a lot of things out there that they're all kind of looking at, to where, like I said, what's going to benefit them. So that's kind of my
Yeah.
opinion. So
Okay, but a lot of people are saying that it's wrong for black people, any black person,
mm,
to vote for Trump because they say he's a racist.
mm.
Um, have you seen anything? Do you feel that Trump is a racist?
I think some of the stuff can be
Do you think
like
he's a white supremacist?
I don't think he is, because he legitimately did say that that he what is it? He said the title of like the Ku Klux Klan was a terrorist
Dave Duke.
organization. He
David
did say
Duke.
that, right?
Yeah.
So and some other group too, I don't know what. But I mean he admitted he said it, but then again it's like some of the stuff he says I feel like he could word it better. Like we were saying like stand like when he was talking about like the
The
Proud
Proud
Boys
Boys.
and all this stuff,
Stand by.
stand back and stand by. Oh, okay, man. You know, you need to really kind of be careful the way you say things. Come on, man. But I kind of look at him as like I said, like there's people that were saying that he's different off camera in comparison to when he is on camera. So we have
Mhm.
to look at it from that way too. Like, I don't know. I just feel like some of the things he does really need to check himself on how he says it. Because he just feels like he just says what comes to mind, like kind of like a freestyle. Just says it right there on the spot, Johnny on the spot, right?
So would
So
you say that he just sounds like he's a white
he does
supremacist?
sound like it. Yeah, I mean, I feel like he does sound like it. Is that his main intent, and that if that's his goal? I'm probably not. I would think.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong. Like I said, that's just my opinion, but I don't know, man. I just some of the things I feel like he does need to kind of retrace himself on how he says shit. So I don't know.
I
I just feel like this whole presidency since when he became president, dude, this whole time it's been like a fucking show to me. Like it's just been like fuck. Okay, we have somebody that I feel like never really had a background being in, any government position or in any like, because a lot of people have like certain little backgrounds to where like, okay, they've had some experience, right?
right.
I mean, I could be wrong. He's never had that type of experience to really kind of like put him in the forefront to where he could say he has somewhat of experience, right?
Hmm.
So I don't know. I just feel like,
He's always, so he did run for president once before,
oh, he
and I
did.
forget what year it was. Yeah, he'll have to go to YouTube,
Okay.
and I think Dateline or 60 Minutes, someone did sort of a special on it, and I watched it, and it was sort of like watching like an independent candidate just fizzle out. I mean, it
Yeah.
was just like he was throwing it almost looked like Kanye West running, where
Really.
you didn't really take it serious. Yeah, he's throwing on this event or whatever, but like it's not anything that was serious enough to actually.
Like pick up some steam, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so he has run for president before.
Oh,
um, and then he's always had some sort of a political um opinion. So even going back to, I remember he was talking to Oprah one time, and Oprah asked him early on, maybe late 80s, early 90s, would you ever run for president? And he says, no, I don't think so, but maybe, so he always left that door open. And so this is something that he's sort of flirted with for a long time. And so I think he just got to the point where, he was 70, was he 72 when he ran?
yeah.
And he just finally got to the point where he finally just dove in, and once he started getting traction, I mean, he was up against what, Jeb Bush at the time. Jeb Bush was one of the people going for it on the Republican ticket. There were a whole bunch of people that I'm just like, I mean, you couldn't have picked a worse bunch,
Yeah.
so it was no wonder he stood out. But I mean, the things that made him stand out were the fact that he was coming at it with this outside sort of opinion, this outside take.
Yeah.
And, here we'd had 8 years with Obama, and Obama had been promising all this hope, all this change. And, the biggest thing that happened was Obamacare, but he was just running into obstacles every which way because he didn't have the Senate majority. And so he couldn't get Obamacare the way that he wanted it.
Yeah.
And so, but here we were. I mean, we'd been struggling with the economy, and it was just so much of the same that America, I think we were just sort of fatigued from just the same. And
Yeah.
so when Donald Trump came in, it was sort of like this weird thing. It wasn't supposed to happen. All the polls showed that he wouldn't win. And I remember election night. I remember it was like 7:30 our time, and he got it. I
Yeah.
mean, my wife and I we were driving to PF Chang's to meet our pastor for dinner that
PF
night, and
Chang's.
then on the way on the radio on the way
Yeah.
to dinner, they announced it. They said he's got all the electoral votes that he needs. He's won. And I looked at my wife and I said, "No way. Donald Trump just got the presidency. He won. He is our president." Oh my God. I can't believe this. Like it was just like, I couldn't believe it.
I remember you telling me that having the same like you were telling me kind of the same thing when we went to work the next day.
Oh,
Like
it
even
was
everybody was shocked. Like, damn, we didn't think he was gonna like win it. You know, like I was like, shit.
yeah. I mean, everybody was so ready to, have our first Madam President,
Yeah,
and which was Hillary Clinton, and and I mean, she was crushed. Donald Trump didn't even have a party or anything ready. He was ready to lose. They didn't have any speech prepared,
yeah,
nothing. And then meanwhile, Hillary Clinton, they had this whole thing ready to go, and she didn't even come out to do anything. They just, I think it was Podesta just came out and said, "Hey, everybody, just go home. It's over." It was, it was, it was so historical on so many levels, just because it really, I mean, you ask anybody, and it was not supposed to be like that.
yeah. No, for sure.
Crazy.
Yeah,
But
here we are though. I mean, end of the presidency. I mean, who do you think is gonna win? Your opinion?
I think Trump has it. I do.
Yeah,
I think that, I mean, again, all the polls are showing. I was just reading a poll this morning, said 90% chance that Biden has it. All the polls are showing Biden in the lead. Um, we've seen this before, and I think that a lot of Trump's voters are people that wait to the very last day to stand in line. Wind, rain, sun, doesn't matter. They will stand in line until that vote is cast. And I think that, and I think that like states like Pennsylvania, that were really like out of grab for Trump for the longest time, are now all of a sudden within reach. Now all of a sudden it looks like Trump might actually get Pennsylvania now. So we'll see. That's one of those swing states. But I mean, a lot of it has to do with the fact that Biden scared a lot of people when he said he was going to, start getting away from fracking, which is their main money driver over there.
yeah,
But one thing I wanted to talk about if is one thing that we're talking about, the Biden tax plan, and we're talking about the Trump tax plan. But one thing that nobody, literally nobody, has talked about, and that I want everybody on the tip touch to know, that my finger is on this pulse. And I want to talk about something. I was talking with one of my friends who lives in Italy, and we were talking about some of the, the fact that it appears as though there's like going to be like a financial global reset of some sort. And the last time this happened was after World War II. It's called the Bretton Woods Agreement, where it put the US dollar as the world reserve currency, and it was backed by gold. And then in 1971, Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard. So it basically made it to where it was just the faith that the world had in the US dollar. Well, the dollar now has weakened to the point where our word is really not as good as it once was, and our currency is not backed by gold. It's just a fiat currency that is printing endlessly. An unlimited amount of fiat currency is being printed. So one thing we're seeing is that the Fed right now is flirting with a digital currency called FedCoin, and we might actually start looking at a digital currency. But so I was just talking though, about the fact that in the 70s, and I might be reading this a little bit, but let me just read a little bit of my notes here.
okay,
But I go, we're talking about, people are talking about minimum wage. Oh, we need a $15 minimum wage, right? That's the big thing. But what is a $15 minimum wage going to do, when the real problem, in my eyes, is the economic disparity, right, between the rich and the poor? So I said in this email, um, I said, in the 70s, a CEO of a company made around 30,000 or 30 times more than the lowest paid employee. So if the lowest paid employee made $15 an hour, which was 31,200 a year, the CEO made around $936,000 a year, almost $1 million. But now CEOs make closer to 400 times the lowest paid employee in some businesses. So if the employee is making the same amount, which is the 31,200 a year, this CEO is making 12,480,000 a year. And that disparity is what keeps the healthcare, education, and other basic needs out of reach for so many people. So raising the minimum wage isn't the solution. Um, as minimizing the wage disparity would help ensure the playing field is a hell of a lot more level than it currently is. So that the question though is, how do you, people talk about capitalism all the time. Oh, if a CEO wants to raise their prices and they want to make 12 million a year, who are we to stand in their way? But the problem is, we've lived in this society where the government has chosen winners and losers time and time again. And you see that during recessions. So, such as 2008, we saw companies, get bailed out, such as GM. They took the bailout money. Ford chose not to, but we bailed GM because they said, oh, they are too big to lose. That was the whole thing. Whereas if you let capitalism work, it truly work for what it is, guess what? Elon Musk was coming along the way anyway. Elon Musk could have come in with true capitalism and delivered a better product at a lower price, and you wouldn't grapple with this wage disparity that we're seeing today. So I'm not an economist, so it's not like I'm sure that there's things wrong in my statement, but that but I am sure that that is one of the biggest problems we are facing. It's not raising the minimum wage. I think that that's the wrong battle that people are picking. The battle that we need to be fighting is figuring out how to keep those wages closer to each other. How do you keep the people on the top closer to the people on the bottom? And that's with trade agreements, that's with all sorts of things. There's all sorts of things you can do. But, you know, that's I don't hear anybody talking about it. I don't hear Trump talking about it. I don't hear Biden talking about it. I've heard nobody. So
So kind of like saying that, why is that? I mean, I'm just asking so I can see we're on the same page. Why do these CEOs make? I'm just putting a number out there, 12 million a year, and let's say the little guy makes, or little, yeah, the small the least paid employee, right,
yeah.
makes 50,000 a year, right?
Yeah.
So, and
So
then kind of how can we break that bridge or break that barrier in a sense to we not meet them in the middle, but meet, like you said, get them closer together in a sense of like equal pay
yeah,
almost,
how do you
right?
make it to where a CEO, anybody,
Yeah.
is making so much money? Because here's what happens is, then all of a sudden you're getting all these houses that are costing $500,000 that 2 years ago were closer to $300,000.
300.
So
Yeah.
2 years ago you could have afforded a house in this neighborhood, but now it went up so much so quickly that now it's out of the reach for only the rich. And then that's what keeps pushing people in poverty to do live the way that they're living, using the emergency room when they don't have, and not being able to afford health care. If we were all making relatively closer to amount of what we were in the 70s with the CEOs, so many things would be fixed, so many more problems. We can't rely on the philanthropy of Bill Gates and of Jeff Bezos to get us out of all these problems. When why should we trust them with all this extra money? Why can't they trust us all with just a little bit extra money? Like, you've seen people that are making money, they as this disparity gets worse, people are donating less because they don't have as much to donate. Whereas before, people would donate so much more to their local communities, local churches, local organizations. But now we're just relying on the rich people to do all that.
Yeah,
And
that's
and then they
true.
get
That's true.
the prize, they get the kudos, they get all of the credit, when before it was a community that kept the community together.
Yeah, that's
So,
true. No, that's kind of a thing where, yeah, that's why we see a lot of these high expectations from like celebrities or people up in those ranks of like donating to charities or doing a lot more people. It's like you're saying, if things were kind of in that ballpark, kind of what you're talking about, it would be the community taking care of the community as well, like
yes.
taking care of each other. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. So they did this when who
In,
was
in the 70s. This
in the
was
70s.
if you
Interesting.
look at the 70s and how much people were paid versus how much the CEO made, the CEO made around 30 times more than the lowest paid employee. But today, the CEOs are making closer to 400 times more than the
Jesus,
lowest paid
dude.
employee. So the
That's
disparity is
insane.
huge. And you see it every day. That's why. And so many people on the left, their answer is higher taxes, bigger government. Me, I don't think that bigger government is the answer, because every time you build more bureaucracy in this already there's too much red tape as it is.
Yeah.
Anytime you add more to it, it just complicates it where a lot of money ends up just being wasted, or it goes to corruption. There's a lot of money that gets lost in corruption.
Yes,
So if
sir.
you keep the money in the people's pockets and you work on and the wage disparity, and again, this comes with hiring American jobs. It comes with um, good trade agreements, meaning, if there might have to be tariffs, like, hey, if you want to get Chinese products or whatever, it's going to cost this company that's much more. They can say what they can moan and groan all they want, but we've had it good in the past, and I think we need to do that. But that's you're never going to hear that go on any mainstream level, because right now you got John, or what's his name, Powell, or no, let's see, I forget, our IMF guy, Jerome Powell. He's our um, I think I forget what his, anyway, he's the one working with all the money. He's working with the IMF right now on working out this deal, and he's the one that's kind of signaling he wants on average an inflation to be around 2%. So we're going to see inflation, because we've been under that 2% for years. We're going to start seeing higher inflation, anywhere between 4 and 6%. So it's literally going to hurt us. When you go to your grocery store and you're paying 6 to 8% or 4 to 6% more for your groceries, again, that's doing the same exact stuff I was just talking about. You're not going to be able to donate to your local communities. You're going to be working longer hours. You're going to be working more. That's less time that we have to spend with our families. But that's the target that they're trying to go for with that target inflation.
Fuck, speaking of the groceries, this is just a little sweet example. A fucking mango cost me $2.73. $2 for a fucking mango. It's like now it makes fucking sense. It's like I'm living, we're living that shit now.
A
I
lot of
don't know.
that
It
stuff
just
can come from like this pandemic. This
yeah.
pandemic is taking people out of the workforce, so it
Yes,
could be
sir.
other scenarios at play with that. But we
Sure.
saw it with avocados. It could, if you have a bad season, I remember avocados. Remember when they were an arm and leg before?
Oh, dude, I
Back,
know, cause yeah,
it
that
was
was crazy because of the whole.
crimping in on my Taco Tuesday style.
No, yeah, I just wanted to use that mango. What is it? Example, because I was pretty kind of ticked off about that. But I
That's
love mango,
perfect.
so I
You're
bought them
seeing that.
anyways.
You're seeing that
Yeah,
with your own eyes. And I think that, Tip Touch listeners, you guys are also seeing it with your own eyes with your bills. I mean, our home prices, our home taxes have just risen and risen and risen. And we're just like, what is the end?
how high is this gonna go before it all comes down, right?
Yeah. When does it finally blow up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see. But you know what? The thing about this Tip Touch podcast, we're gonna write it out with you, baby. We're gonna fucking see all together. How far we're gonna go with this. So don't worry,
Yeah.
you won't be alone.
So did you happen to listen to I think you were the one telling me about the Joe Rogan having Kanye, and he had, who was his other, Alex Jones.
Oh, dude, the Alex Jones, the Kanye West one, I listened to about half of it. I haven't really gone back to really finish that one, but the one with Alex Jones, man, I look at Alex Jones a little bit different, and the reason why, because he's kind of like that conspiracist like uncle you have. But once you get him pretty fucking tipsy, we started fucking having a good time and laughing about just the randomest shit. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what Alex Jones was showing on. Like, it was like a different side of him. And there's a lot of things where he kind of exposed, aside from like, the conspiracy theories and all this stuff, right? the man knows a lot. I'll tell you that he does know a lot of shit. And the one thing that they pointed out in that Rogan episode is that he was wrong about a few things, especially like the Sandy Hook stuff. There was a lot of stuff that he was saying that was kind of just out of his butt. But
Mm-hmm.
and he admitted to it. He's like, there's a lot of things, there's things that I could have, looked more into, and definitely, not give false information. But there's a lot of times where I do a lot of research and I do have a lot of stuff, but everybody has to, think to themselves that I do have all the stuff running through my head and I do a lot of research. And he does, because Rogan was saying, yeah, man, I call you up like at 3 o'clock in the morning. You always pick up like instantly, or you respond like immediately. So you're like always going. And the one thing that kind of really caught my attention was towards the end of the episode, um, is Alex Jones was saying that he didn't have that much time to go with this shit, like to do this stuff, what he's doing now, like with Infowars and all that. Because he said, like, in his words, he was saying that it was killing him slowly. Like he said that he's not really healthy. He's always like he had like this drug problem and alcohol problem. And Rogan's like, man, dude, you need to disconnect for a few months, just get a weight trainer, get a dietitian,
Mm-hmm.
exercise, eat better, just go out there, live life, man. And and Alex Jones was like, yeah, I actually really do need that. I really, like, I want to do other things. I want to, go out there, go do fishing, and I want to, like, he was talking about doing some kind of like pottery class or some shit like that. But it's like, he's a real dude. Like, no,
Yeah.
I feel like that was the most grounded Alex Jones I've ever heard of him. Like, because he was pretty tipsy, he was pretty fucked up.
Oh yeah,
But
he
like
was.
they say like drunk thoughts are sober thoughts, right? In a sense. But he was kind of speaking like from the real, like Alex Jones, like, grounded
he,
Alex
he
Jones.
almost became humanized to you
Yeah,
then.
exactly. So I really enjoy that one, just because like he was saying a bunch of interesting stuff in regards to like the Epstein stuff. Like he called all that shit out before it even fucking happened. So he is a credible source.
Yeah.
Once you know that he said that and all this shit happens after the fact, then I mean, what is there to say that he's not lying, right?
Yeah.
So about the other stuff, I don't know. I really can't hold him, to that, but no, man, it was a good episode. Like, if anybody hasn't listened to that one, go check that one out. But that one was really interesting. I actually found that one more interesting than Kanye's, because
Yeah.
Kanye's, like, we've heard him say all this stuff, like all the stuff that he was saying on Rogan, we kind of heard before. But some of the stuff that he was talking about in the Kanye one was that was interesting to me, was he was talking about doing like his new technological city, kind of like what Akon's doing over there, and where was he doing it at?
Senegal, I think.
Senegal. He wants to do it here in Wisconsin, right? That's where he's at, Wisconsin,
Wyoming.
Wyoming. Dude, I'm so fucking out with this. See, that's why I love having my boy here, so he can correct me, because I don't want to go off the fucking ledge
You're
and be
good. You're
wrong.
good. You're
You
good.
got me. Wyoming. Yes, you're correct. So he's talking about doing like a city of like from his brain,
Mm-hmm.
a city there, right? And I'm curious to
That's
see that.
interesting.
And if he can pull that off, all kudos to him, because he's trying to do a lot of good things, where he's trying to break that cycle where obviously there's people that serve long terms that can't get a job. And he made some good points. I don't know if it was on the Kanye one where he was talking about this, or this could have been somebody else, but he was talking about how, let's say, and this doesn't go for everybody that's in prison or serving any long-term sentences, right? But he was talking about stuff where, if you're thrown in there, right, and you're really trying to do better, and be a better you once you come out and go back into society, or be released into society, they don't really train you up to do that while you're serving that term. So he was talking about how they want people with like that are like mental health professionals to work with these people, to get them back into
Yeah.
society, to where if they truly deserve that second chance, they can go back out there with another fresh shot to get a good job, to reestablish themselves, to set a good foundation for them or their families. I do agree with a lot of the stuff that he was saying in that in those side of things, right?
Yeah.
But all the other stuff was kind of like, he just really kind of broke off. Like, he wasn't really answering a lot of questions to when Rogan was asking him specific questions, like he wasn't really answering them. And I don't know. I mean, that's just how he is. I think that's one thing we need to remember. Like, he's been this way for a while. So if people were expecting like a whole new Kanye just because he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, I don't know what they were expecting, but it was kind of like the same way he was
Mm-hmm.
when he was on other interviews. So I haven't really listened to the whole thing, but that's kind of how I got it from that. And he was just talking about how he wants to make this Yeezy shoe that obviously right now his Yeezy shoes are they sell for like 220,
And
300, $330.
you
He
have a
wants
pair,
to
right?
huh?
Do you have a pair of
I
Yeezys?
have I have a cool pair, yeah. Just
Yeah.
because they were cool when they came out, it was the wave, yeah, this, but I'm not really into that no more just because my priorities kind of shifted, now. So I'm just not really about it. I mean, if I like
Okay.
a shoe, sure, I'll buy it, but it's not really kind of like my number one thing on my list.
Okay.
But he was talking about how he wants to make like these certain type of Yeezys that he makes for $20. So he wants to make them fairly cheap. So I'm like,
Wow.
okay, so that's cool. If maybe there's a kid out there who's a big Kanye West fan from his old music, can't afford them. Now he'll be able to afford those $20 shoes, whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just like I said, I just kind of want to see what he does, and if he's about those actions, then cool. All kudos to him. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, my take on both of them with the Joe Rogan, Alex Jones one, and he had Tim Dillon on there too.
Tim
I
Dillon,
didn't know who
yes,
Tim Dillon was, but
I
Tim
know who he
Dillon
was either.
was like a young version of Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Basically. But he's a podcast host, and
Okay.
I'm actually gonna check out his podcast now that I've been exposed and see
Yeah.
what he has to say. But with so really it was very hard for me to listen to Joe Rogan as a host on that podcast because he wouldn't even let Alex Jones finish a thought before he was like, wait, let's fact check. Let's fact check.
Yeah.
The amount of fact checking that went on during that episode, I cringed because I was just like, listen, like Joe Rogan, if you don't know, Joe Rogan and Alex Jones have been friends since 1998.
Yeah, they've been friends for a while.
They've been friends for a long time. And if I were to have so say I go off on my rocker, right? And then you and we're going our separate ways, and then all of a sudden I come on your show and
Hmm.
then you're fact checking everything I'm saying. I'm gonna be a little bit annoyed.
Yeah.
It's I don't think that's the friendly thing to do. I don't
Hmm.
think that, and so I said, well, wait a minute. Maybe this is Spotify, maybe he, because before Joe Rogan was just doing the Joe Rogan experience
Yeah.
and it was his show. He did it on his terms. He didn't listen to anybody, he did it on his terms.
Yeah.
But now, ever since this Spotify deal, it's been very hard for me to listen to the Joe Rogan experience just because I can feel this extra pressure that comes with Joe Rogan putting on a show for the people.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he's trying to be more responsible
Hmm.
with he understands now that he has this huge, multi-million listening audience listening every episode.
Yeah.
But to do that to your friend, I just felt was very disingenuous of him. I felt that it was wrong. However, I left some room in there to say, well, maybe he was doing that to prove that his friend Alex Jones was right in most of what he was talking about.
And I
It
think that's
just
kind of, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I understand kind of why he was doing it. And just to, you were saying he wanted to kind of help in a sense to where he wants to prove to the audience that he's correct on a lot of things, like going back to the Epstein stuff, right? And
yeah.
maybe he was just doing it because there were some moments where I caught him, Alex Jones, kind of going off topic to another thing where he was talking about like a certain conspiracy theory, but then he goes to do something else. And then starts talking about that little conspiracy thing. He's like, whoa, hold on. Let's retract. Let's just go back to what originally you were saying
Yeah.
and then continue with that. And I think that's kind of the one thing I saw from that I didn't really like because it's like, okay, I get, he likes to go off on a bunch of stuff because his freaking mind's just like working 1,000 times per minute, so it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, he
but
said
at
he
the
reads
same time,
500 things a day, or he browses through 500 articles a day.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
can kind of understand like why he's kind of like that to where he's just shuffling through a bunch of stuff that he's just been reading or he's read up on. So I mean, to what you were saying though, yeah, you're right. Maybe he was just trying to help him out to where he can actually, make it much more of a credible source to where he's right on a lot of the shit that he's talking about.
Hmm.
So
The thing with Kanye, um, was that if you've listened to Joe Rogan, I've listened to Joe Rogan for years, and one thing that Joe Rogan has always been, he's always been about his psychedelics and how about his ayahuasca, DMT, about him basically that's his way of basically connecting with the world and looking at the world from his spiritual view,
yeah,
whatever. um I don't know how Joe Rogan would phrase it, but but so then he has Kanye on there, and Kanye, has really, like, he shifted his whole thing, his whole career based on his faith, and his Christian faith. And so it was funny because, as someone who's listened to Joe Rogan for years, and I've listened to he makes fun of the Bible so many times. I mean, he's talked about the stories in the Bible where there was a bear that mauls the kids just for the guy being bald, and called the bear to attack. And he's called out the Bible on all these things, right? So and he's mocked Christianity at every turn he can get. He's had people on his podcast that were former Christians that are
Mhm.
now no longer practicing Christians, and he's like, yeah, well, good, you have an interesting story, let's talk about that. And then he just basically uses that as his platform to bash Christianity. But when he had Kanye on there, he didn't check Kanye on anything. I mean, to listen to the Alex Jones one where he was fact checking him every 2 minutes,
Yeah.
to giving Kanye the full runway on his faith and his Christianity, and then not checking any of it. Not, it was almost, I was like, what's Joe Rogan doing right now? What's he doing?
Yeah.
Because, as if Kanye's not there, he's going to go back to bashing the Bible, bashing Christianity all over again. But for someone who is so skeptical, why didn't he bring some of that skepticism to that episode to Kanye? Why didn't he
Yeah.
say any of that to Kanye and say, hey, this is some of my problems with the church? Why didn't he say any of that? So
Yeah. That's
I've looked at this Joe Rogan thing ever since he's went to Spotify, and I'm seeing a different Joe Rogan, and I'm not in love with a lot of it. I'm thinking he doesn't seem as genuine as he used to be. Now it's like it looks like it's someone putting on a job who has rules that he has to follow now. That's
mhm.
exactly what it looks like. It does not look like the old Joe Rogan where, he could just say whatever he wanted.
I mean, for 300 mil or whatever he signed to, man, I
100
mean, I
mil,
would
yeah.
think comes with something like some restrictions or something. I mean, that's only my guess. I don't know. I don't know the whole deal and details, but that could possibly be it. Because, like you said, it's coincidental that all of a sudden, just the way he handles his podcast is a little different.
Hmm.
And it is like you were saying. You have a valid point on why he didn't grill Kanye about his faith and all this stuff, and just kind of talk about certain things that maybe Joe has his mind on, like on the religion side of things, right? Um, but yeah, it's I've
And
only listened to those two that I can recall, those two so far from him being with Spotify. So I mean,
yeah,
I
those are
really
the
gotta
only two I've
just
listened to too.
yeah.
So
But yeah,
yeah,
no, it's crazy, dude. But like I said, that one with Alex Jones was really it was really interesting. That one, I have to listen to the first one. I was just seeing comparison, but it's funny seeing Alex kind of being a little bit more grounded and more a little laid back. Having fun with it. Just kind of like I said, being that fucking drunk uncle. At your family reunion or whatever.
yeah. Well, it's so crazy because, like, with Alex Jones, there was such an uproar from so many people that, because Alex Jones is banned on every platform. He's
Yeah,
banned on YouTube, banned on Facebook, banned on Twitter, banned on Spotify. So he can't go on there himself, but as a guest, he's going on there, and people were just in an uproar. Like, why?
yeah,
How could Joe Rogan allow this guest who's been so bad to our society, and yada yada yada? And I'm here to say that that's what happens when you censor people. You don't censor people uh, in a country where we have the freedom of speech, and you can say all you want about it being a private company. These are private companies making decisions, but like, you're literally trying to unperson Alex Jones, and it
yeah,
can't happen. Someone who has as much sway as he has, and I think it sets a bad precedent for the future for other people who, I had sent you a thing, last week, and I was just joking. It was basically me mocking the Midnight Ride by Paul Revere, where I
yeah.
show Paul Revere writing, "Oh, the British are coming, the British are coming," and then below it says the Instagram fake news been verified, it's been fact checked by independent resources, not real.
Not
If
re-
big tech were here in 1775, this is
yeah,
what we would see. and who, and the big thing with big tech is when they censored that whole the New York Post for releasing the Biden laptop story.
Mhm.
It was a huge thing, and to see Twitter and to see all of these platforms literally ban not just the New York Post, but the White House press secretary. People like they were banning them and shutting their accounts down, and I'm like, this is really bad in a free country. Freedom of speech, that's one of our main things that we hold high, and sacred, is our freedom of speech. And then you're literally having these tech platforms shutting these voices down.
Yeah.
Very alarming to see.
Yeah, I think when you put into where, like you said, like if when in regards to social media or being able to post whatever it is that you want in regards to like your thoughts, opinions, or whatever, to for it to be censored, like we have to ask ourselves, is that really? I mean, and I feel like it is. Like, in my opinion, I feel like it is. When they're crossing that line of censoring a certain individual, or taking their rights away from being able to obviously publicly speak about how they feel about certain things, or just like I said, give their opinions out or what their thoughts are. I feel like we need to really kind of realize, like, are they really kind of slowly taking away that right from us as people, like from everybody?
And how is it that we have, it's almost like we are treating big tech the same way that we treat the Federal Reserve, where the Federal Reserve is this unelected bunch of people
Mhm.
who are the ones that, it's a private institution that sets the financial um, plan basically for the American people. So we have to abide by their rules, but yet they're unelected,
Unelected, yep.
private company. And and so it looks like we're doing the same thing with big tech. It's such an alarming thing to see that if you and I have an opinion, or say we even have facts, say I'm reading the paper, like, oh my gosh, this is like, you're not going to believe what I'm seeing,
Yeah.
this is real, this is real, but because it hasn't been independently verified, I can be shut down. It's just so alarming to me. It's so alarming because we live in this day and age where real news matters. And if I have the opportunity to give it to you, to give it to our audience, and I'm shut down because of it, how much time are we losing to make a critical decision, such as an election,
Yeah.
such as a vote for a financial policy, or just having our day-to-day information, like, hey, I want to know more about healthcare, I want to know about vaccines, about vaccinations. And now they're saying that all these people are getting sick, and it was Bill Gates himself. This was something that came from the Alex Jones podcast with Joe Rogan. Bill Gates himself was on the news saying, yeah, there's side effects, but they
Oh
weren't
yeah.
announcing any of it. They weren't advertising any of it. So people like Alex Jones, like Tim Dillon, were the voices that were coming with the truth, with an informed piece of information that does help you and I make decisions on our health. And yet, because big tech isn't on their side, they silence them. It's
Yeah, and that is weird though. In regards to Bill Gates talking about how they were saying like 80, it was a high number of
it was
people that took this
80%.
vaccine, 80%, right?
80%.
Had like severe side effects from this thing. I'm like, family, I'm
Dude.
not fucking taking that thing. That right there was like, no way I'm taking that fucking vaccine, dude.
Yeah.
It really kind of like, this is live TV right here.
Mm-hmm.
He just said that. And I don't know how,
Do I
I
want a
mean,
guy
like I
like
said,
that silenced? Do I want a guy like that censored? Who,
yeah.
and then you're only letting me see this other side that the
Hmm.
people are agreeing with. Oh no, we're on Bill Gates' side. We're on the tech guy's side.
Bill just stay to making
Crazy.
windows. That's it, man. You're good. You'll be good with doing just that. Let the vaccines be handled by somebody else. I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm good, man. You know,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I know. I
That
mean,
was
it's
crazy. Yeah, that was crazy you brought that up because I was actually about to bring that up as well here. Once we move to a different topic, but you
I'm
fucking just reeled that one out.
telling you, man, this is Tip Touch, baby.
Baby, baby. So I watched the phenomenon
Oh, did you?
and
Oh
I
God,
and I
tell
wanted
me.
and I wanted to remind I wanted you really I really want you to see it just because. So I like
Where
going
can
to
you
the
watch it?
it's on YouTube. You have to
Oh,
rent it. Unfortunately, it's I think $3.99 for HD, so it's not that
cool.
bad.
Yeah.
So I rented it. I watched it. I took some notes. I tried to take some notes, but it got really, once I get really interested in a documentary, I kind of just want to pay more attention and just watch it to really kind of like digest everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I really want to talk about one of the events that took place in this documentary, and this is where shit gets real, and shit could get real
Hmm.
if this interferes, if these UAPs interfere with this. So I'm gonna read you a little something, okay?
Okay.
And this is on CBS News for anybody that wants to check it out. You can type in Google CBS News and type in ex Air Force personnel UFOs deactivate nukes. So let's see. Stars and Stripes quoted former Air Force Captain Robert Salas, who was at the Malmasorm Air Force Base in Montana in 1967, when 10 ICMs he was overseeing suddenly became inoperative. At the same time, base security informed him of mysterious red glowing objects in the sky. Robert Jameson, a retired USAF nuclear missile targeting officer, told of several occasions having to go out and restart missiles that had been deactivated after seeing UFOs that were sighted nearby. Similar sightings at nuclear sites in the former Soviet Union and Britain were related. So, just to break this down, okay, there was these objects that were flying around these bases, and there was 10 people that were there the day of when this happened. And the thing that kind of shook me a little bit was that it was almost the same tactic to where Commander Fravor was saying it jammed his UAV or it jammed his radar. Obviously, it's an act of war, but what do we call when we have this unknown thing that they don't know what it is, deactivating fucking these nuclear warheads? This is real shit too. This is real people,
Yeah.
and these guys were talking about this in an open event in 2018, and I forgot the event's name, but they were talking about how these things were just offline, nothing was turning on, nothing was responsive, and it happened on two occasions too. One was
Wow.
over, like I said, in the Soviet Union and in Britain, same thing, same scenario. They saw these things flying over, and all of a sudden their freaking their warheads were just going offline.
So the Soviets admitted to that as well,
They
huh?
they admitted to that as well, and you'll
Oh
see it in the
wow.
documentary and everything, dude. So I
Wow.
mean, you explain. I mean, I just want an explanation what the fuck this is. You know what I'm saying? And now the more that the fucking government's like opening up and saying a bunch of this shit, there was this one gentleman on there, man, and like I said, I'm horrible with fucking names, but if anybody wants to watch this, go check it out. The Phenomenon. It's on YouTube, and there's other places you can rent it. They asked him, they're like, is there a lot of things that we don't know that the government has hidden that are yet to be talked about or just spoken about or even brought up from the surface? And it's funny because he's like drinks his water. He's like, we haven't even scratched the surface yet. There's a lot of stuff that hasn't been released at all yet,
Oh my
and I'll leave it at
gosh.
that. I don't know, man. I feel like shit's gonna fucking get real here soon, and I think the more and more once we start feeling, I think once the U.S. starts feeling more comfortable to know where we got something to protect ourselves from whatever this unknown entity is, I feel like it'll be more exposed. But till then, I think they're gonna try to keep this under so close wraps, even though there's so much pressure. I feel from like a large, number of people from a certain community, which would be just the UFO community or whatever you want
Does
to say. But it's gonna
yeah.
get. I think that they're gonna be pressured to kind of like be more outspoken about this. But I think when it comes to like it being interfering with their Air Force or Air Force services, just like any of those military personnel, I think they want to keep that kind of like under wraps because they're probably using some of this technology for their benefit as well. I mean, how do we know that they're not working on something that they could duplicate or mimic whatever it is that they saw?
When I hear stuff like this and like that the governments are working with this, like what's to say that they haven't made any type of contact with these guys, and what's to say that these governments aren't working with this whatever it is, if it's aliens or whatever this is, that that is using these unidentified objects to have some sort of global takeover, right? What if they're making a deal saying, "Hey, we'll keep you, the good humans, the humans that are keeping this thing a secret, and then we're going to enslave the rest of the world or whatever, or we're going to eradicate we're going to Thanos one half of this world, you know?"
Dude,
Of course they're going to stay silent, right?
oh, dude,
Should stamp what are the Area 51s, they were going to charge the gates.
yeah, dude. I mean,
I mean,
I would want to see what's in there, low
well,
key. I'm
if
like,
we knew, like, okay, if and that's part of the skeptic in me that says, okay, there has to be a reason why they're not telling the rest of us. And could one of those reasons be that they know that we are all about to be enslaved or killed by these things? But then they have some sort of a peace agreement. It's not to
yeah,
say that, I mean, that any slave trade you've seen one person of that representative of the particular people that were going to be enslaved working with the enemies and saying, "Hey, I'm the good guy here, but and I'll get my people um to be slaves. I'll sell all my people out, and then but as long as I'm okay, as long as I'm taken care of." Wouldn't it be in our best interest to storm Area 51?
or at least to know that if and all they could say was like, I mean, even though it would be kind of like a breaking headline or news, where if they were to say we have made contact and we do have proof, and that's all you got
But
to
I'm
say.
saying if there's no way if they have some sort of agreement saying that, hey, we want to take over your planet, and we don't want there's way too many humans here, especially China, and we want your natural resources. So what are we going to do? Because we have control of your nukes. In every country that has nukes, we have control over them. So you can either work with us and sell your people out, or we'll kill you as well.
That's the scary thing, though, man. Fucking nukes. They fucking turn those things off like done.
Insane, man.
And
I mean,
you
that's
can't. And then if let's say if it was an act of war at that point, what could they do? I mean, I'm sure they can fucking activate those puppies and boop, there you go, they're off.
yeah, that's what I've really changed on my beliefs on the whole alien stuff as more and more information comes out, and as more people that are in the government have come forward and said, "Hey, there's definitely a lot of stuff going on here." I'm listening now more than I've ever listened before.
I'm telling you, man, you should go watch it, bro. I want to see, I want to hear your opinion on it, just because, like I said, they're throwing names out there, like a lot of high level, like government officials that are, keeping their lips just sealed about this stuff, but they'll admit that there's things that they can't explain what they saw, and there's a lot of people that come out forward and talked about this stuff that have pictures and they can't really explain and give an actual like answer of what it is that they saw.
It's
So
insane.
yeah, for anybody who wants to check out an awesome documentary and it's wants to check something out from that world, go check out the phenomenon. I'm telling you, it's interesting, man.
I think that
Interesting.
with all this stuff going on in the world, I can understand why people would be like, "Nope, that's too much for me. I can't handle that." You know what I mean?
COVID's just enough right now. I don't really
Yeah,
want to. I don't want to push the threshold, right?
I barely made it through Halloween. Oh man,
What is it? Cavities or COVID? Which one? You
yeah,
get
yeah,
your
cavities,
choice.
COVID, and then the election going on next.
That should
Um,
be the title of episode 40, man. Episode 40. We're here. We reached another little milestone, right? This is episode 40, right?
I think so, dude.
Dude,
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. 40 deep. 40 deep.
Lordy, Lordy, look who's 40.
Oh yeah, man. No, it's yeah, dude. It's really cool to just the more that I'm more, like you said, I'm paying attention more because, like I said, the government's officially admitted to it that yes, we don't know what these things are, blah blah blah. But the fact that they at least acknowledge it and they know that this is something they got to keep their eyes on and see what it is. So I'm paying attention because of that, just because
Yeah,
we're acknowledging it now. So
I'm
don't
telling
call
you.
me
I
crazy.
mean, and it's crazy because China has they've sent some sort of a space thing on the dark side of the moon, and somebody was saying that they discovered water on the moon
That's
recently.
what exactly. Let's shift to that. So,
Okay.
what would that mean? If let's say that there's water on the moon, I mean, it would be amazing just because to think like we've always heard of the moon just being the moon, but for it to have water,
Well, that's why we went to Mars. That we're sending these missions to Mars to figure out. They're trying to take police. Wow, they're trying to take humans, and they're trying to take us to the next planet because we know that Earth is not going to live forever, but they want humans to live forever, and so that's why you're seeing all these different things in play. So discovering water on the moon makes the possibility of it being habitable for life. So, could we plant crops? Could we have some sort of a group colonize the moon? Can we colonize Mars? And if so, if these things are proven that possible, then we would start our mission trips. We would start sending people to both places. And my guess is that at first they're going to send they're going to teach people, how to function, how to, you know, basically live on these places, but that's where the next colonies are. The moon
man,
and Mars. And then they grow over the next, you know, tens of thousands of years or whatever, and they'll say, okay, we have this much technology here. It's going to take us time to um, procreate and build our colony big enough with technology, with all this other stuff, to where we can move on to the next and the next and the next. Basically we're Star Trek or Star Wars,
I
depending.
just want to find a cool machine. I've been on my Star Wars tip, so the sound of that sounds pretty cool right now. I watched every Star Wars movie from the episode was it episode 1 all the way to episode I think 9 where it finished. So
Dude,
yeah.
could you imagine, like, okay, someone is going to the moon, like, hey, we'll see you in 3 years, because they're just on a rotational basis.
Yeah.
Or maybe they do it the way that Britain treated their prisoners, and they shipped them all to Australia. Maybe we do that. Maybe we send our prisoners to these colonies and tell them, hey, you wanted an education system in your prison. Well, here you go. You're going to the moon. Here's your education. Here's how you survive.
Damn, that'd be ruthless as hell.
And they
But then at the same
travel back
time,
and forth and bring souvenirs. Like, hey,
yeah,
here's that
I
American
got these
flag.
cool moon rocks.
Yeah, yeah. But I want,
I
I want the American flag from Buzz Aldrin.
know, right?
I want the original one, all tattered.
Oh man, ah man, I mean, I don't know if we'll ever see in our lifetime to where they're taking constant trips out there, but just the thought of it's just it's crazy if when it'll get to that point because I know eventually we will. It'll get to
It's
that point.
it's crazy that we're thinking about doing that, and yet they say that 70% of the Earth is water, and we haven't figured out how to make water cities yet. Like, okay, we
That's
take
true.
cruises, we do all these. Why can't we just have these floating countries that we bring all the dirt, we bring all the soil, and you basically have islands, floating islands that can go anywhere in the world that it wants. If there's a storm coming, hey, there's a typhoon coming, we're just gonna go up a little bit out of the storm's way. But we still have our crops, we still have our cities. I don't know. I mean,
Well, if they can do that. So check this out. I read a cool little piece on these little, they're robotic. So they're robotic building movers. So what it is, they put these on huge ass buildings and they move buildings literally to wherever they want to go.
oh wow.
And this is in Taiwan. They're doing it. They're doing it already. They're moving their buildings. Isn't that crazy?
Wow. That's crazy. And
Man, dude,
also, I mean,
technology, dude.
and have underground. I mean, I was thinking, we know there's pressure under the ocean, right? You can only, when you're going underneath the water, you're like, your head starts going, oh god, too much
Yeah.
pressure. Well, if you could depressurize it, like we have the submarines that go so far underneath, right? Because
Yeah.
they depressure them and then they pressurize them, whatever the whole thing is, all the science. I'm not a science guy. But if you could build basically with the similar technology as a submarine, have an underground city,
Yeah.
that would also take, you know, that would be another option to explore. But I mean, this crazy thing is they're just saying, well, what if an asteroid hits, you know, and then it just destroys the whole earth. Well, that's why they're looking at all this. But then, they're also looking at putting, a Neuralink, putting technology that directly connects to your brain. We are living in sci-fi. We are
Oh
literally
man.
living in sci-fi.
It's gonna be real interesting to hear the next 20 to 30 years to see how things are gonna change, man.
Yeah,
That's where shit's gonna get real.
you and I, we are the last generation to see what we're the last generation to live to where we saw what humans were before any type of technology, massive technology connecting to humans
I think you're
looked like,
right. Yeah, you're right. Because the one thing for me that was a huge transition in a sense to where, technology that's kind of, you could say, is connected to you would be this
Yes.
right here.
Yeah.
This right here was the
And he's
beginning,
holding a phone in case for
a
your
cellular
listener.
phone. So that right there is the beginning to where instead of this bad boy just being here, boop, it'll be in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
You could have everything, anything you want. Download. You want to freaking learn French? French within a minute.
The one thing I would always love, like, is if you were completely allowed, like if you had brain technology, the technology goes right to your brain, and you could instantly see when somebody was lying. So say there's a
Oh yeah.
politician, right, and they say, hey, this is what we're going to do, but then they connect them, where we can all see exactly what's going on in the brain. We could see if that politician was lying to us. But I think that, one thing I saw was that, they said that we're going into this age where there's not going to be any no such thing as a celebrity anymore. Like, and if you look at it, like, look at all these YouTube channels that are popping up, right? Remember, and all these podcasts that are popping up. Podcasts used to be a thing that everybody made fun of. Oh, here's a podcast. Oh, they have a podcast, right? But dude, now you're looking at all these celebrities that have their podcast too. And and it just means that, hey, look at all this influence that has come to these podcasts where people are saying, oh shoot, like people like Alyssa Milano now has a podcast. People like Jenny McCarthy, they're like, okay, I guess it's time to get a podcast, because they see how influential and how many people are tuning into these things.
Yep.
People are listening, and we've seen our numbers grow, right? Every month I'm like, hey Eddie, look at our numbers, so Tip Touch listeners, thank you for tuning in, for listening, for increasing our numbers. It's one thing where it pushes us. We could have easily, we had to postpone last week's episode, but we didn't want to do it 2 weeks in a row. We were like, let's make this happen. Let's do it.
Definitely.
And it's because, in large part, because we know that we have a listening audience. And I think a part of me, I feel like, okay, we owe that to the listeners.
For sure.
We don't want to, this is no longer, it's no longer a thing where nobody's listening. Now we have people that are like, hey, we're waiting to see what's next. So
yeah, and it's kind of our duty to really kind of just make this as interesting as possible, and we definitely want to be engaging with everybody that's listening, because we want to definitely get on the tip of doing some live sessions and taking questions maybe from everybody that's listening, and being able to engage with everybody. So we have all this stuff in our minds to where we want to do, but at the same time we were trying to balance everyday life things that we got going on, because we're both family men and stuff. But we definitely want to get around to everything we possibly can to just kind of incorporate the audience, which is you watching, to be part of the podcast itself. So I mean, again, with what Brett was saying, thank you for everybody that's been listening. It is truly awesome to see how many of you really are listening to this wherever you're at, wherever here in the world, here in the states, out of states, wherever you're at. Thank you very much. It truly pushes us to go further and just continue on with this journey. And this we got a long road ahead.
Even the aliens that are listening to us, like, hey, we don't hold anything against you for shutting down these nuclear codes, and we understand. We don't want nuclear holocaust.
It's all about peace and love, man. That's all we want. And if it's peace you come with, we come in peace too as well.
We come in peace. I saw ET. I'm on your side.
I'm on your side. Yeah, it'd be just cool to get you on the podcast though, low key. If you guys ever want to be on the pod, let us know. Channel us through, and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, just don't abduct me.
I know. I need to go to work tomorrow. Just don't. Maybe on vacation time. We'll get a vacation, but not now.
Man.
So, brother, man, I mean, do you want to wrap this up? I mean, we've had a pretty good little sesh today. I mean, it's you know, a little bit later, but better than never. So, I mean,
Yeah.
are we good? I mean, how do you feel, man?
Yeah, no, I feel like we hit a lot of different topics. One last question. Have you voted yet?
I did.
You did vote. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Ballot's already
And
put in the mail or in the ballot box.
yes.
I did my part. It's just everybody
Perfect.
hoping that they did too. If you guys really like my boy Brett's been saying, man, go out there and vote. You know, whoever it is that you choose, you know, you just base it on what you feels right,
Yep.
what you feel is going to be best for the people. Do what you got to do.
Yes. Yep.
That's how we
Yep.
look at it.
That's a beautiful thing, and we will connect with you after the election has taken place, and we'll obviously probably have an election special where we talk about some of the things, and depending on where we're at, I mean, this is crazy. So we'll tune in with you guys. We'll reconnect with you at that time. Until then, we just want to thank you all for listening. You can catch us on YouTube if you want to catch us on video, on audio. We are on your favorite platform, whatever the platform is that you choose. And if it's not on your favorite platform, let us know. Leave a message on YouTube. You can leave a message wherever. YouTube's probably the best one. Instagram, you can reach us on the Instagram. Please follow us on Instagram. Any type of interaction we have with you, it just makes it much more worthwhile for us and for you. And we just want to do this, keep it growing. If you have any interesting guests, give us a tip, let us know, send us a DM, and we are all ears, baby.
Show, and we're out, baby.